We've been working our way through common carnivore diet questions, and for the final video of this series, we are going to go over the miscellaneous and/or strange questions. You wouldn't believe some of the questions I get here on YouTube about carnivore. So let's start with the more tame questions, and we'll work our way down to the crazier ones. The first question is, what's the minimum amount of time to stay on carnivore in order to see the benefits? I tell everyone a minimum of 30 to 90 days on carnivore is where you're really going to start seeing some of the benefits. The longer you stay on, the better, obviously. But remember, it took a really long time for you to get to where you are today, so it's going to take some time for your body to heal. I have found that after the 90-day mark, at least for myself, I really started to see some serious benefits. I'd lost 15.5 pounds, inflammation was down, and I was feeling pretty good. So stay on as long as you can, but at least 30 to 90 days. The next question is, doesn't it get boring? And the short answer is, yeah, it can get boring, sure. I mean, for me, pretty much I'm eating beef, pork, eggs, and butter, but honestly, I don't get bored. I only eat when I'm hungry, and so every single time I'm hungry, I'm like, I'm gonna eat that steak, Maybe I'm just a boring person. Who knows? But there's lots of ways you can doctor it up. You can search here on YouTube for carnivore recipes. There's tons of replacement recipes just using animal products if you are feeling bored with the diet. But yeah, it's definitely a lot more restrictive than, being able to eat everything under the sun. But I feel really good. My energy levels are high. I've lost almost 45 pounds. So I think the trade-offs are worth it. And honestly, I personally don't ever get bored anymore. The next question is, do I have to eat this way forever? And no, I don't think you have to. I also don't think carnivore is the only healthy way to eat. I think the most important thing is that you're eating real whole foods. So cut the ultra-processed foods, cut the vegetable seed oils, and make sure you're cutting the added sugar. A lot of people use carnivore to heal themselves, and then they can, reincorporate fruits, vegetables, some grains. There's lots of different ways that you can eat in a healthy way. So no, I don't think you need to stay on it forever. For me personally, I'm going into month 15. I have committed to stay on it through month 24. I just want to see what happens, and I feel really good. So it's worth it. And for some people, they have autoimmune issues. So this is the best diet for them. You're going to find out very quickly what works best for you. The next question is, do I need to take supplements on the carnivore diet? And the answer to this one is, in theory, no. With a well-formulated carnivore diet, you're going to be getting all of the vitamins and minerals you need. Now, me personally, I'm not opposed to taking supplements. I personally supplement with D3 and K2. I live in the Chicagoland area and we just have brutal winters, so I like to keep my vitamin D levels high. In the summertime, I lower my supplementation and I use the sun to try to get my vitamin D, but in the winter, there's no sun for days. So there's nothing we can do about that, but I like to test my blood and then I supplement to deficiencies. I'll put a link in the description to where I get my blood work done. I just order it online. In most states, you can do that. But yeah, if you want to take supplements, go right ahead. It's not the end of the world, in my opinion. Just make sure there's not any fillers, vegetable seed oils, sweeteners, things like that. There's some sneaky ingredients in supplements, so just make sure you're reading the ingredients labels. The next question, what do I do if I go off the rails? For example, oh my God, I didn't eat carnivore for 2 weeks and I feel like crap. How do I get back on carnivore? The first and most simple thing is just get back on the wagon. There's, no guilt, no shame in this. And having those feelings isn't going to serve you in any way. So it happened. It's in the past. Get right back on that wagon. And within a couple of days of going back to strict carnivore, you're going to start feeling better again. Though when you do go off the rails, I really want you to remember the way that food made you feel. In the beginning of October 2023, I had some serious cheat meals and they made me feel like crap. My depression and anxiety flared up. My knee hurt. I was so lethargic, so tired. So what I did is stored all of that entire experience into my mental Rolodex. And now anytime I see that food, any kind of cheat meal type food, I'm just like, ugh, I do not have time to feel like crap. I just want you to store that in your brain so the next time that's going to stop you from eating that food in the first place. And the more you're able to reinforce that food is going to make you feel like crap, the easier it's going to be to say no. So if you go off the rails, just get right back on the wagon and remember how it made you feel. The next question is, can I do carnivore on a budget? I get comments all the time here on YouTube about how expensive meat is. And of course, there are going to be regional variations in pricing. Some people are going to live in a very expensive area, some people cheaper. Different countries are going to have different prices. So this is just going to vary based on, where you live and how much money you make. But I just recently did a couple of videos where I did a $100 budget for one person for 1 month and a $300 budget for 4 people for 1 month. So I will link those videos in the description. There are ways that you can find cheaper meats, ways you can find sales and deals and things like that. So I also have to say that there's like a lot of non-monetary ways that you're saving money when you do the carnivore diet. The first off is your health. The health benefits, not having to go to the doctor as often, getting off of medications. That's a huge money saver. And I know for me, just the energy that I have, the mental health, the physical health, I'm able to do so much more. And honestly, that's priceless. We also have like zero food waste anymore. So we just eat animal products and we eat all of it. Before, when I was eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, those tend to go bad really fast in the fridge. So zero food waste. And you're also eating less often when you're on carnivore. A lot of people are eating like 2 meals a day. You're not as hungry because you're not having all those glucose spikes throughout the day. So that's another way you're saving money is just you're not eating as much food. But the food you are eating is very nutrient dense and filling. It's the right food for your body. So yes, the answer is you can definitely do carnivore on a budget. I'll link those 2 videos in the description so that you can check them out. The next question is, how long will it take to become fully fat adapted? Being fat adapted just means that you are a fat burning machine. Your body is optimized for using your fat, stores, and ketones as fuel. Takes a little bit for your body to get adjusted to that. Usually within 3 or 4 weeks of being on carnivore, you're really starting to get used to it, becoming a little bit more fat adapted. But there's varying opinions as to how long it takes to be really optimized for that. I was just down at a metabolic health conference in Boca and Dr. Siwas was there. He's a leading voice in this low carb space. And he was talking about how he thinks it takes up to 2 years to become fully fat adapted. The next question is, I've been on carnivore for 15 days and my weight loss has stopped. What can I do to speed it up? I get some variation of this question every single day. And what I always say is that everybody's different. And also being on the diet for 3 weeks, a month and a half isn't that long of a time in the grand scheme of things. I always say just be patient, continue to be consistent with strict carnivore, and you're going to see some results. But some people, they lose a lot of weight. Some people don't lose any weight in the beginning. And some people gain a little bit of weight on carnivore. The scale is the worst, honestly. So here's what I want you to look at instead. First, baseline measurements. I want you to take those right when you start, or if you haven't taken them yet, take them now. And then measure yourself again in a couple of weeks. You may lose inches before you lose pounds. Next, I want you to take a look at how your clothing is fitting. That's a huge, huge, huge indicator of success. You may be able to fit into clothing that you couldn't even get on before. That's huge. And that may happen before you lose any pounds on the scale. Finally, I want you to think about how you feel physically and mentally. You're probably going to see improvements in both of those areas before you start to see massive amounts of weight lost on that scale. Put the scale aside. Use these other methods and don't worry about it too much if you've been at the same weight for a couple of weeks. Honestly, a weight loss stall isn't really a plateau until you've been the same weight for a couple of months. So don't worry too much about it. Just stay consistent on carnivore and most likely everything is going to start moving in the right direction. If you're still having issues after a couple of months, I have a video. It's called 11 Tips to Overcome Weight Loss Plateaus on Carnivore. Check out some of the tips in that video if it's really bugging you at that point. But if it's just a couple of weeks, just hold tight. That scale is going to start moving again. The next question is, how do I stay carnivore while traveling? And there's so many different ways you can do this. It just takes a little bit of planning. First off, if you are driving, if you're going on a road trip, if you're an over-the-road trucker, pack a cooler, pack your fridge. We always pack our cooler with cut up steaks, beef sticks, lunch meat, cheese, things like that, sparkling water, regular water, all of that kind of thing. For fast food, I'm usually doing like Wendy's burger patties or McDonald's burger patties. They get the job done in a pinch. If you're flying, there are carnivore options at the airport. Usually you can find cheese sticks, like sashimi. I've found different restaurants will have just like burgers or things like that. I also kind of like to fast on flight days. I just don't eat at all that entire time. Or you could just eat a really nice big breakfast in the morning and that'll tide you over. When you're on carnivore, you're not like needing to eat all the time, so you can go a long period of time without eating. If you are staying in an Airbnb, that's super easy. We love to travel that way where we just go to a grocery store, get everything we need to cook our meals at home. Or if you're staying in a hotel, just try to get a room that has a refrigerator in it. Same thing, go to the grocery store, get some carnivore stuff, and then do a quick Google search and see what restaurants are in your area, see which ones are carnivore friendly. Most restaurants are carnivore friendly. You can find some meat to eat, you know what I mean? So there's lots of ways you can stay carnivore while you're traveling. It just takes a little bit of practice and a little bit of patience. All right, we've made it through the miscellaneous. It's now time for the strange or interesting. This first question kind of caught me off guard the first time I got it, but then I got it over and over and over again. It's interesting. So, don't McDonald's burgers have human meat in them? Really? Okay, so where did this originate? There are people out there that think that McDonald's quarter-pound burger patties are made with human meat, that there's human DNA in those burger patties. There's not. There's 100% not human meat in your McDonald's burger patties. But where did this conspiracy theory come from? From all I could find on Google is it originated in 2020 and it was debunked pretty quickly, but there are still people that think there is. So I'm here to tell you that you're gonna be fine if you eat the McDonald's burger patties. There is not human meat in them. The next question is just tons of different variations about bowel movements. Pooping on carnivore. I've gotten comments like, oh my God, don't go into the bathroom after that chick, or she must have exploded that toilet, or I don't even know how you poop, or, just tons. Like, people feel very comfortable talking about pooping on YouTube. It's strange and interesting, but whatever. There are legitimate questions about bowel movements on carnivore, so let's go over them real quick. First off, your first month on carnivore, you're probably going to have some interesting things happening to your bowel movements. Some people have diarrhea, some people have constipation, some people have a joyful mix of the two. Lovely. But that evens out after that first month or so on carnivore. You're not always going to be existing that way, Your body eventually gets used to this way of eating, so it all evens out. But there's a couple of things. So if you're having hard stools while on carnivore, try increasing the amount of fat that you're eating, and you also can increase your electrolytes. That's a quick and easy way to get everything moving and flowing again. Second, you are not going to be creating as much fecal volume in the first place. Meat is the most nutrient-dense food on the planet, so your body is assimilating almost everything that you're consuming. Eggs, you're not pooping out any eggs. Eggs are like 100% assimilated. So that's another thing. You're not constipated. There's not as much poop. But you don't just, shit your guts out for the rest of time on carnivore. That is a common misconception about this diet. Kind of piggybacking off of that, I have gotten so many questions about farting, about gas, just like, oh man, she must fart up a storm, or like, oh, she must be the stinkiest person ever, blah, 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 blah. Meat farts. What the hell is a meat fart? I don't know what that is, but I've gotten comments about that. The funny thing is, and this I did not expect, this was an unexpected benefit, I do not have gas anymore. Gas comes from fiber. And fiber comes from plants, and I'm not consuming any plants, just animal products. So I do not have farts anymore. I do not fart. And it's funny because I will have vegetables from time to time. I used to do a keto cheat meal once a month, and I'd have like a salad or some Brussels sprouts or whatever. And I would notice the next day or two, I would have farts. I would be farting. I would have gas. So no, you're not going to be smelling farts all the time if you're following me down the street, because on carnivore, you pretty much don't have gas. The final questions that I've gotten about carnivore that are, unique or gross or whatever is related to keto breath, increased body odor, and pH imbalances. I think the pH imbalances is referring more to like somebody's lady parts or man parts. So a couple of things. Keto breath is a thing. I personally did not experience it whatsoever, but it can be kind of like a sweet smelling kind of breath. That goes away. That goes away within a few weeks of carnivore, so that you're not just existing that way for the rest of your life if you're staying on carnivore for the long term. Also, one thing I noticed with oral health in general is my gums no longer bleed. I do not have inflammation in my gums anymore, and I do not need to use breath mints. I used to have to use breath mints pretty often, or at least I felt like I needed to, and now I don't use them at all. So you're going to see improvements in your oral health. That was one really big benefit. And the keto breath, I didn't experience it at all. Some people do, but it goes away pretty quickly. For the increased body odor comments or questions, I have not experienced that at all. I personally have never really used deodorant. I do not have body odor. I guess that's kind of weird, but I don't. So I've never really had to use it. And I didn't notice any changes in my smell or lack thereof when I started carnivore. So I don't know where this question comes from. Honestly, I think a lot of the body odor issues that people are experiencing are because of ultra-processed foods and sugar. So when you're going to cut that out, you may actually see a decrease in your smell, in your body odor. It'll be very interesting to see. You're going to have to see what happens for you. And then finally, the pH imbalance thing. Again, I can't believe some of the things that people say here on YouTube, like talking about somebody's hoo-ha. It's very strange. No, I have not experienced any kind of issues in that area. It's always just neutral, no weird smells, bad smells, anything like that. And again, I think a lot of that can be related to, sugar and ultra-processed foods, and I'm not consuming any of that stuff. So yeah, no changes there for the worse. If you haven't seen the first 2 videos in this series, I'm going to link the food and drink related questions video here, and I'm going to link the metabolic health and disease related questions video right here. This series was so much fun to shoot. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.